Good afternoon, Adam. How you doing today?
I'm great, Joe. How you doing?
Oh, everything is wonderful. I'm sure not quite as wonderful as in Staten Island, but we're doing okay here in Jersey.
Well, I'm glad I gave you that information before the podcast, so I won't say it on the podcast about how we're doing here in Staten Island.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly. We'll keep that one to ourselves for now. This is a family-friendly show. But anyway, on to nicer stuff. So we are lucky enough to have a guest today. And, as we've talked about in the past, one area, constituency, whatever, that is woefully and shamefully underrepresented in information security is women. Again, we've talked about it before, but we're a little constrained in how much, perspective we can bring to it. Because, as you know, I'm not a woman, nor are you, nor do we identify as women, nor would anyone take us seriously if we said we did. So we solve that by getting a real woman as a guest, but also someone who is very active in this field and brings us a lot of perspective. So let's welcome Rebecca Cahak. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Great to have you.
Yeah. And what you sort of teed up there at the beginning is very true. Being a woman in cyber, it's lonely. There's not a lot of women. You can just about any organization that you go to. I mean, the leadership, women leaders, you can count on one hand, sometimes only one finger.
Right.
Anytime we have any sort of, sales kickoffs, or we have any sort of, shows, whatever it is, the line for the women's room is nothing. And the men are just piled up high. So, it's lonely, but, I do believe, that the tide will change, that we will see more women. I mean, will it be substantial? If I had to put a number on it today, maybe 10% women.
I'd say that's even generous, but anyway.
I was thinking more like 7 or 8, but I don't know everybody. But
if I remember correctly, and I just posted today, and somebody said there's no way it's true. On the Security Cocktail Hour LinkedIn page, we posted a story where someone said it was 24% women represented in cybersecurity, I believe, which I don't believe is accurate. But don't take my word for it. Call me out if it's wrong, but I think it's what the story said.
I would say that number is probably more closely related to technology as an industry. I don't think it's specific to cyber.
Probably.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that.
And I started drinking already, so I might have gotten it wrong.
I was just going to say, normally my normal tequila is Casamigos Reposado. My husband drank the last of it. I didn't realize that we were out, so I've gone to my trusty Glacé Azul, which is also a Reposado. And love me some tequila. And and this fun bottle, if you've never experienced this, we first learned about it in Mexico. You can ring it.
Oh,
that I've
nice
never seen.
Nice little trick.
That's got to be funny after a few rounds.
Yeah,
I would not give it to somebody at a bar in Staten Island. They'd probably use it as a weapon.
Absolutely. I wouldn't put myself. I wouldn't put it past me to use it if I needed to.
Well, I gotta tell you, I went out and got a bottle of Casamigos, which I don't normally drink. I'm just not a big tequila drinker. Yeah. And I even had a George Clooney joke teed up. I said, I was going to refuse to plug it unless you acknowledge that Frank Sinatra was the true Danny Ocean. But anyway, I guess it's a moot point.
Wow, you have a lot of high expectations.
Hey, this is New Jersey. We worry about these things here. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Don't you have to shake Sinatra's hand to be part of the club?
That's going to be a little tough, unfortunately.
I meant in the past. If you're shaking his hand now, you got some serious problems.
That's it, right.
It still sounds like we're talking about the family here. I think we should probably be careful.
Yes. Well, let's move on to security. So anyway, yes, it is true. There are, well, actually, Rebecca, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because you are, not just a women in security pundit. You have been in the industry for a respectable amount of time.
I have. So I am, I live in Austin, Texas, and I went to school at what now is called Texas State University. And when I moved to Austin, so that's a little town about 30 miles south called San Marcos, Texas. And when I moved to Austin, I worked for a company where I sold fax machines. That was my first year out of college. And then my second job, I sold office furniture. And both times, what is now Dell Technologies, back then it was just called Dell. Dell Technologies was my customer for both of those companies. And so I got to know the purchasing manager really well. And one day I was in her office and she was like, "Why are you not working for us?" And I was like, "I'd never even thought about it." And she's like, "I'm going to get you an interview." 2 weeks later, I was in a training class. So I really did the bulk of my technology work, very early days of Dell. I started with them back in '94. And I did sales leadership, and I also did a stint in product group marketing with those guys. And then when I left Dell, I joined the channel side of the business. And so then Dell was my partner that I managed the partnership with Dell. And I did that for many, many years. So I felt like I was in the Dell ecosystem for about like 25 years between both of those together. And then when I moved into that channel space, I met an incredible leader, Abigail Maines, who's currently the CRO with Hidden Layer, and I just really, really liked her leadership. She's just she's really cool. She's really she's smart. My God, she's brilliant. She's so like she gets it. And when you work for somebody who gets it, they understand all of the ins and outs and all of the little nuances. You really want to stick around with that person. So I've actually gone with her to 4 different companies.
Oh,
And
well, that's what Adam always says about me, but then he quit on me. So
Wait.
What?
Whoa. So what you don't know, Rebecca, is that Joe inherited the group that I was in. And what Joe used to tell every single person at the company we worked at, I normally don't mention company names. Joe says, "Yeah, I inherited Adam. I didn't hire him. I was the only
I was the
one that
only person I
inherited."
didn't hire myself, but I kept you around. What a compliment!
I mean, you're like a stepkid, you know. I mean, hey, I have a stepson, and I love him like I birthed him. So
I'll tell you.
it could happen.
So let me give you a plug for you.
Okay.
At that company that I met you at,
Yes.
you were the go-to person for that vendor. You were the go-to person. And I highly admired you, and I really appreciated all your help. I know sometimes your hands were tied, but you gave me the honest answers, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm kind of surprised that you're on our podcast after working with me at that other company as my vendor. But I still thank you for coming on.
You gave it that bad of a time, Adam? Wow. Nice.
That's an incredible accolade, and I have to tell you that is always my goal at anything that I do is I always want to be brutally honest. I mean, because sometimes I can make things happen, and I'm my brand. I'm also known for that, and I can almost always make something work. But again, when I have the right leadership who gets it and they understand what a true partner means. Oh man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because then we really do, I add value to what you're doing and you add value to what I'm doing, and it just very simpatico. So thank you. That is always what I strive to be, and I appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
And I guess the good news, and it's no problem because you definitely earned it. And the good news is with Joe. Joe woke up one day and said, "Adam, you want to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Okay." So I love Joe. Joe. If I could work for Joe again. It might be hard now because I'm very happy where I am, but I would work for Joe again. So I'm so happy that we're all coming together. You know, I'm ready to start singing Kumbaya and roasting marshmallows.
Well, you are working for me again. Just Adam thinks he's a partner in this, but anyway.
That's true.
I'm kidding. We are partners.
Yeah.
Anyway, but also, I mean, and again, we really don't know each other, but I think you also moved from Dell, kind of the traditional space.
Yes.
I think you also made a very strategic move into kind of the new world.
Yes. Well, because you've got to be more than a one hit wonder, right? You've got to kind of expand your horizons a little bit. So I have added quite a few other, GSIs and technology partners, into my tool belt, and it has been wonderful. And I've learned so much about myself, even like how do I shorten that cycle of getting to know people. And like sometimes it's this, like I came out to meet Adam in person, and I was even, I was super lucky to get to meet his wife too. And like, and that's again, that's my brand. That's the difference that you're going to get with me. Is that I love my partners and I have so much loyalty, and I'm completely devoted to making the world easy. And so that's what I enjoy to do. I almost feel like, it's like you find your calling kind of thing. And I was just like, this is what I was meant to do.
Well, that's great because, I mean, we've been Adam and I kind of come from the other side of the table, the purchasing side, being,
right.
Security managers and everything. And whether it's security or anything else, it's,
right.
that the vendors that, I have the best relationships with are, the best business relationships, or the ones who I have the best relationships with, and I don't just mean we're friends or we're buddies or anything, but,
right.
You really get to know each other, and you get to know, they get to know you and what you need. They're not going to call you every time they have some new silly thing they're pushing. You really get a relationship there, and a respect, and like each other too, because who wants to work with people who are just unpleasant, to be frank.
Yeah, exactly. And Adam sort of alluded to it. We had a lot of things going on between the two companies that we were both representing, and not all of it was pleasant, right? But we managed to get through every single day, still feeling like we were on the same team, and that was amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, we definitely had a common drive, and you're right. Some of the issues were difficult, but we both had the same thing in mind: taking care of the client, taking care of the customer, to ensure we gave the best possible solution. Because at the end of the day, and I always say this, right? Yeah, we want to represent our companies, whether passion or prejudice, but at the same time, it's us. We're the brand that we're selling as well, in addition to the company that we represent. So when we move on to another company and we deal with the same people possibly again, we want them to know that we have that integrity and we do the best we can to ensure that they're getting the best possible quality or product. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. Product, level of service, level of attention. Yeah. Yeah. All of that. So.
Which is why we're here together again, because we all respect each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then I mentioned to you guys the leader that I sort of glommed onto, Abigail Maines. So what we were doing was every company that we were at, we were starting a women's organization, right? And again, it was small. Sometimes it was 12 women. Sometimes, I think at its height, maybe, like 25, 30 women kind of thing. But every single company, we were recreating the wheel. And we decided one day, let's stop recreating the wheel. Let's just create the one thing. It stays with us everywhere we go. We just fold the other people in. And that's how we founded Fierce. So that was back in 2020 during the pandemic. It was one of those, a lot of really good things came out of the pandemic. And, obviously for us, that's how we feel about it. So Fierce stands for females in every role changes everything. And so,
okay, so I'm sorry, I have to ask you. This has been bothering me. That acronym is just fantastic. How long did it take you to come up with that?
Excuse me. Yeah, I need a little tequila shot here.
There you go. That's right. See, there we are. You're in the spirit of the show already. So cool.
It's very medicinal. So it didn't take long. We liked the word fierce. First, we sort of just did a brainstorm of what are the words, that in your mind sort of signify, who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. And it was one of the words. So once we found the word, then it was like, okay, then can we make it mean something? So then we just started to sort of play around with it, and it literally just sort of rolled. And it was like, wow, that was kind of cool. And that's when we decided, okay, we're really going to keep this. We're really going to take this and do something else with it beyond just whatever organization we happen to be employed at the time.
Awesome. Well, that's a good name too.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get a cease and desist from that Project Runway guy, you should be cool. I love it. But
you should totally be fine. And then when we went in to create our logos, we sort of looked at, a couple of different storyboards, and one of them had a picture of a panther. And then what's interesting about a panther is depending on where you're from, the panther could have a lot of names. It could be a puma, it could be a panther, it can be, like a jaguar, and it could be many colors. And then we thought, oh man, that also is amazing because that's what women are. Like we have so many different titles, right? We're moms, we're wives, we are employees. Sometimes we're the entrepreneur. Sometimes we are, your carpool, you're the maid, you're the chef, you're, you're all of these different things. You wear all of these different hats. So we really liked, just physically the strength of a panther. We just felt like that embodied women. And then I really liked the little extra touches. We add a crown onto our little panther. And whenever we write out fierce, we like to put the crown on that as well. And that's also just to remind us that, like no matter what is going on, you are still a queen. You can handle this. You've got everything you need within you, and you just have to, sometimes your crown might get banged up or it might get tarnished, but you just clean it up and you bang out those dents and you keep going.
A crown or a tiara?
We like a crown, but I'm not opposed to a tiara.
What's the difference? I'm feeling so stupid today. I didn't even know a jaguar and a puma and all of them were the same thing. So
I think of a tiara as like it's just a little front piece of
just a little front
adornment,
thing.
and then it's kind of
Okay.
more like a headbandy kind of a thing, or versus a
Crown's the whole
crown
thing.
is like complete, a
Oh, yeah, you
complete.
go for the whole crown.
I'm
Definitely.
just saying we're worth it.
See, this is educational also. We learned the difference between a
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
learning so much.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm also learning that it appears that you and Abigail are very good at branding and creating messaging, far better than Adam and I. If you've seen our website, and your site is beautiful.
Well, so part of the deal here is we brought her on, Rebecca on to the show. She's going to provide a 25-minute free consultation on what we should do next.
I mean, the sky's the limit, man. We're Panthers. We can do anything we want.
Thank you.
There you go. All right, cool.
You know what? I would like to tell you about a workshop that we're planning for the fall. I think that would
Sure.
be really fun too. So
Absolutely.
we're calling it, this is our first like large event. We've had, I guess that's not true. We had that wonderful breakfast at RSA this past year. I think we had about 200 people who registered and probably about somewhere between 130 and 150 people that showed up to a breakfast. And it was just sort of a nice little come and go kind of thing. But that was really cool. So that was at RSA earlier this year. But we tend to do like one big thing a quarter. Sometimes it's just like a nice happy hour kind of thing. The other thing that we like to focus on is we want to make sure that the women who are a part of our organization, that you don't have to pay to come to something. We find sponsors. So, we kind of utilize that muscle that we have in building partnerships, and we use that now to build sponsors that then invest in us and invest in the women, obviously we're there for them whenever our sponsor companies are looking for employees, and they want, they're specifically looking for female talent. We've got a nice little database of women we can send their way. We can promote any job openings, things of that nature. So it's a very simpatico kind of a thing where it's a true partnership. We want to add value.
That's going to be part of our also our guidance. Rebecca's going to show us how to get sponsors.
Yeah, we could use that. Yeah, our current pitches we'll plug anything that's not illegal. So,
Whoa, that's not true. Wait, step back.
That's not true.
I'm willing to plug some illegal stuff too.
Okay, but that's interesting. That is really interesting because I know that there are a lot of companies out there that, like, when they're getting started, they actually do have to have conversations about stuff that could be controversial. Like let's just pretend for a moment that you guys were consultants. Would you take a job, a gig from a company that was something that maybe you morally objected to? Maybe it was something like, something in the porn industry. Would you do that?
No, and actually, we're joking around a bit.
I'm still negotiating. I'm still negotiating.
There are a number of industries I really prefer not to work for, and Adam's like, what?
So,
It's an interesting thing. It's an
Rebecca,
interesting thing.
this has been brought up to me before. I've actually been in interviews, and I bet you wish you were a fly on the wall for this. And somebody's like, "Why do you want a job here?" And I go, "Look, this is what I'm passionate about." I said, if someone gave me $500,000 to twiddle my thumbs, or $1 million a year to twiddle my thumbs and do nothing else, just sit there like this, I wouldn't do it. But if
Yeah.
it's something I believe in, something I want to
Yeah.
do, and by the way, I've had some opportunities to work at some morally questionable places, and I even left one place recently because I was not happy with the ethics. So the point I'm making is I'm very careful what we do, and we have these conversations, Joe and I, all the time. We're careful what we plug, we're careful what we repost, we're careful what we say. We try not to mention companies. We try to be vendor agnostic, but we will bring vendors on if they want to talk about their product and how they relate to the industry. But we're very careful.
Yeah, I think that's a good policy to have. I do a separate podcast with a guy friend of mine, and we had to have some similar conversations as well, because it's like, listen, we're not trying to. Um, I don't want to upset anybody. Like, that's not who I am. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not. I mean, obviously, I am who I am, and I have beliefs and values that I stand behind. But I would never like sort of force that on anybody else.
Yeah.
Look,
Well,
yeah,
it's tough because even insecurity, there are some controversial
Yeah.
issues, and
Yeah.
we've taken on some because we have to, because it makes sense,
Yeah.
because it's what people are interested in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not looking to have people screaming in the comments or,
Right.
or
Yeah.
any
Right.
craziness like
Yeah.
that. We
Like,
try to keep
yeah.
it a little
Yeah.
more elevated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah. So I like that. I think you guys are totally on the right path with what you got going on, and just stay true to yourselves, and whoever your target audience is, and I don't think you can go wrong.
just because we have a voice does not mean we should use it, right? Um,
Yeah.
and let's keep in mind, let's be fair. Our podcast is just starting out still. The audience is not great, but if the audience was, let's say, 100,000 or 500,000 people, we both Joe and I would not use that audience to start ranting about people or organizations. Our goal is to bring together um, vendors and people that we want to speak to in a way that, and Joe brings this up all the time, as if we were at a bar just having a conversation and having a drink. That's what we look for, to enjoy each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
not to make money.
That's right. But then, when it gets late and it's like, in the fourth or fifth round, you start saying what's really on your mind. We kind of try to avoid that. That gets a
But
little
we don't
crazy.
record that.
But we don't record that. Yeah.
Yeah. Turn the recorder off. Yeah. Because those are still great conversations to have. I love a good, get into the weeds kind of a discussion like that. That's fun for
Yeah.
me. But yeah, don't have the recorder on for that one. No proof.
Okay. So, Rebecca, with fears,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's covering a broad thing with women. Is it
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
More technology,
Yeah.
security. What are you covering there?
Yeah. Yep. No. So again, when we look at, like what is, our mission, what is our charter? We focus on, we sort of have like the four foundations of fierce, which are, empathy is like the most important, resilience, courage, and hustle and or work ethic. All right. And so we really, everything that we do, we can always bring it back to one of our four foundations. And so like I started to tell you, and I can't seem to finish my thought on this, is our workshop that we're going to have in the fall. It'll be in Austin, Texas, and it'll be 1.5 days. We'll kick it off on a Thursday evening, and it'll be a networking event. And we're using this fantastic platform, Happily, HAPPILY. We love that platform, by the way. They're a great partner of ours. And so we'll kick it off with a networking event. And why I mentioned that platform is when you RSVP, you can also upload like a picture of yourself. So imagine how helpful that would be for you to go to a networking event and you knew before you went, oh, I want to find this guy and mention something to him, have a conversation with him or her. And so you've got a picture of what to look for when you get there, so we think that will help a bunch too.
Well, especially if it's not a 12-year-old LinkedIn picture like most people's are. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah, that would be ideal. Yeah.
I think a lot of people were looking for me, so I'd probably use Joe's picture.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, really.
that's a great trick, actually. I may steal that. And then on Friday we'll go over. We'll have some keynote speakers, and we'll have some really good discussions, some panel things, and we'll talk about topics like finances, like how to maximize your benefits at any company that you're at, investing, even fractional investing, like just some things that, if you've never really spent the time to dig into it, you may not know about. And it's a great way to empower women financially. And then we'll have some sort of, mental health and wellness as well. We have a nurse manager on the agenda. We have a lady who's going to talk about, your personal brand, how you build your personal brand. We have somebody who's going to speak on mentoring and champions, and what the differentiators are between them and how you find them. And then we'll have some other good panel discussions, and some of the things that, like if I had to just toss out, I'm going to give you some like 3 questions that we typically get from women that whenever we're addressing them. We get a lot of women who ask us about, how do you not always feel guilty, right? If I'm at work, I'm guilty that I'm not at home with my kids. If I'm home with my kids, I'm guilty that I'm not doing the thing at work I'm supposed to be doing. So we get a lot of that. So we help, navigate sort of the age-old question of, can women really have it all? And it's not just a simple yes or no answer. It's sort of yes, but there's a lot of things that are wrapped around that yes. We also we get a lot of questions on the champions and mentorship, so we definitely want to do a deep dive there. And then strategies for if you want some upward mobility, but maybe you've got some gaps in your skill set. And that's another topic that we have. We have a gal coming on to talk about exactly how to bridge those gaps. She created a little company called Bridged. So that's pretty cool. So so we get, a lot of sort of typical questions from women, but again, we focus on women. It could be in technology, it could be just in corporate America, but we also, like, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, if you want, if you're in government or you're in academia, we'll be addressing a group of women at the University of Texas sometime in the near future. So there's just, we have another company that we work with that it's a mostly female company. They provide female services, and I think one of the interesting things that they asked us about was sometimes the women are real catty, and there's a lot of just catty women fighting kind of amongst them. How do they break out of that cycle?
Well, you're allowed to say that, not us. But.
Again, so and then we had another organization that was like, all the women are the women who are the women in the organization are the ones who are doing all of the work, but the boss is always a man. Like, how do we break out of that? How do we get corporate to see us as an option for the highest of leadership as well? So we get it all, and hopefully we address it all, but we are not just specifically focused on technology. We do all sorts of areas of interest. Yeah.
I'm going to say something that's not popular, but it's funny. I've had this conversation with both my wife and my child, and I'm like, in the animal kingdom, the women or the female species are the ones that do the hunting. They're the ones that are the providers. The praying mantis, after procreation, rips the head off the male. In the bird species, they're the ones that go hunt and provide nourishment for their offspring. So I've said this before to some men, like, just shut up, but it's kind of true, right? It's kind of true.
we're pretty magical creatures, yeah. Plus
Yes.
we're the ones that create the miracle of life in our
Yeah,
bodies.
can you imagine? I've seen like these little movies and shows where they try to give you the picture of a man giving birth and what would happen, and it's
Yeah.
not pretty.
No, the population would completely die off.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's lots and lots and lots of things for us to grow into. Essentially, we address a lot of the sort of triaging that needs to happen today, but then the ultimate goal is to not even be needed in a future generation, right? For us to not even be needed to exist, because we're going to help do such a good job of teaching both men and women, how to raise strong women, how to raise women who are not afraid of the STEM industry. And I absolutely can see that will be a thing. I can absolutely, I think, there's some real simple things that you can do today, which is, I know you may think it's the most amazing compliment to call your daughter a princess, but if she grows up thinking that, all she is pretty and she can't handle, a job, being, um, you know, something in the biomedical field, or she can't be president. She can't be, no, we really want to help eradicate any of that sort of thought process. And, we want to equip both men and women on, how do you be a part of the solution so that we don't ever even have to have these discussions again.
So, Joe and I, we go through sometimes these sessions where we talk about how we're going to find people for our podcasts. And I've found that I know it's not representative of the industry or even IT. I've found that there are more women thought leaders on LinkedIn than I see of men in IT. And every once in a while, and we've actually invited other women to be on because it seems to be a very powerful message to convey. And not to say I don't want men on there too, because of course I do. But there's a lot of thought leaders out there, a lot of, and this is probably a bad word, cheerleader for women to excel in this field, which is great. And as a father, I want to see. I had these conversations with my child, and I said, hey, you need to be independent. You need not to rely on anybody. And that's really important for me.
Yep. Yep. And those are super important conversations that dads should have with their daughters. And Abigail, my co-founder of Fierce, she actually wrote a book called Abigail's Amazing Dad. Her father is no longer, with us, but he did a really good job of when women like Margaret Thatcher and Ann Richards would be on TV and they would be, doing what they do best, he would make sure she was in front of that TV, watching it, seeing it, hearing it firsthand. And then, they would talk about it later and he breathed that life into her, that absolutely you can do anything, you can be anything. There's nothing that's off limits. And that's not to say that even if you don't chase after something big, that, you've not accomplished much, and that sounds, I don't even like the way that sounded coming out of my mouth. Because, being a stay-home mom is also a very important role. If a woman chooses to work outside of the home, great. Sometimes women are there's no choice. You have to do whatever you have to do to care for the family. So it's not to put any sort of a light on, that role not having value, because absolutely it does. But also kind of going back to that guilt part that I talked about earlier, I have a lot of women that part of that guilty question is, how do I have a successful career? How do I make time to be a thought leader, to present myself well, to, excel at work, and be the best that I can be at home? And that's where I said, that answer just is not as simple as, there's like one magical recipe and then boom, you've got it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I got some real thoughts on that, and
Okay,
I
tell me.
no, but I think it applies to everyone, men and women, and this gets to something. I read a lot of philosophy and ancient stuff and everything, and the question of, you know, how do I have it all, or how do I do all this, is actually not a new one. And
Yeah.
even in the,
Yeah.
even in the modern world. And,
Yeah.
the answer, I mean, I personally think just being a little slightly mature, whatever I like to think, but,
Yeah.
Very mature.
you have to have if you say you want to have it all, you need to have a realistic,
Yes.
Yeah.
goal
View of it.
of
Yeah.
yeah
Expectation.
of
Right.
having it all. That's right, and set your expectations and your
Yeah.
priorities in life, because you know what, you
Yeah.
got to have priorities. I
Yeah.
mean, even if you're a dad, it's like, you know what, I mean, I can tell you too. I've made certain
Yeah.
decisions. It's like, if you're going to
Yeah.
be at all the baseball games and
Yeah.
all the concerts and doing all these things,
Yeah.
um, you know what, there are certain jobs you're not going to be able to have. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just, and that's not necessarily a negative. That's just the
Right.
reality of putting
Right.
some priorities
Absolutely.
on your
Yeah.
life. There are people. Also, you look at some men who are hyper successful. Many of them have horrendous relationships with their
Yeah.
families and
That's right.
divorces and everything.
Yep.
You got to make your decisions in life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I understand that for women, it's especially challenging and
So
tough.
it's
There are
almost like
many
Well,
more expectations, apparently.
yeah.
it's
Right.
almost like cybersecurity. It's risk versus reward. You're going to
Yeah.
risk one
Yeah.
thing
Great
in
point.
order to help a reward on the other. And I told my wife, we had this conversation many times with my wife, not recently, and she's like, I want to be home with the kids when the kids were younger. And I said, look, we'll try to make things work, but if you go to work, you're going to be very happy with yourself because you're going to have a career. And not only are you taking care of the kids, you're also providing for them monetarily. So while you might not be home every single moment with them,
Yeah.
you'll be able to excel and be a bigger provider in addition to the
Yeah.
compensation I get in order to put the kids through programs they want, what
Yeah.
they want to do, pay for college. So, yes,
Yeah.
it's give and take. Where you want to give, where you want to take, and one size does not fit all. What might be right for a stay home mom might be very different for another woman that can work 18 hours a day and then come home. It really depends on your situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I have two major thoughts where that's concerned. Number one is, um, what we found to be true within our family was that it was quality over quantity. It didn't necessarily matter how much time we spent with our son. It was the time that we spent with him was that true quality time where we really focused, were we really present, or were we all just sitting around, on our phones? Right. So we maximized the time that we had together. And it is, we absolutely felt that made a huge, huge difference. We were phones down, during family dinners, and we always sat at the table, and it was always discussions, so it's like maximize your time with that. So that was, one of the big things that we did. And then on secondarily, I always like to tell women, especially when they're sort of, feeling the pangs of guilt, is, your kids also need to see you thriving. They need to see you fulfilled. They need to see you, working through challenging situations. Like you're modeling the right behavior when you're doing those things, right? Because also, like, kids, they think that they're the center of the universe, right? And they love being the sunshine for everybody, and nobody can live without the sunshine, right? They love that, but it's also not healthy for kids to believe that they are the center of the universe.
In my household,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
At a certain age, they need to get over.
Exactly.
Yeah, so what we've been doing in our household for many years is we have the children, my kids, as contributors. And what I mean by that is it's whether they're going out and throwing out the garbage or helping
Mm-hmm.
bringing groceries, or
Yeah.
even my son
Yeah.
has gone on his bicycle. Yes, Staten Island, so it's a little bit different, right? And has bicycled to the store to pick up groceries. So, that's what we try to do. We try to
Yeah.
bring everybody in as a contributor in
Yeah.
order to help for the common good.
Yeah, we always refer to our family unit as Team Cahak, and to this day we still do that. Our son is just started his final senior year at Texas A&M University, and to this day we are still, thank you, we are still Team Cahak. It's like you are representing this family, and today your job is to continue to do well in school, and your job later will be something else. But he definitely knows what his role is and how he contributes. And yeah, I mean, again, kind of like Adam, we started off with you and I talking about our partnership and how, because of what I could provide, it made you stronger, and because of what you could provide, it made me stronger. It's no different. Like, partnerships need everybody pitching in.
I was going to say, I think another part of that is, and this is where the relationships come in a lot, and it's especially important in security, where there's so much stress, there's so much after hours.
Yeah.
Is we've got to learn to be a little accepting and kind with each other. It's especially when you're doing an incident, you have these things going on. It's tough and everything, and it's very hard to remember also that people are also people. You can't drive them too hard. People will need a break. And, also people do have families, sometimes things can get so rough, even as a manager, you got to remember, it's like, hey, did you tell your wife you're not going to be going home tonight? So, remember, even as we're focused on this, there were other things. And also, I know I've screamed, more than once
at me,
at someone saying, at you, saying, I need this right away. And then sometimes, someone comes back and says, oh, I'm going to miss my kid's game. We're going to do something. And it's like, and that's even, you get some guilt with that. It's like, was it really that important? Was it really that essential? Is the world going to end if, this is the next morning,
Yeah. Yeah. That was actually how Adam and I became friends, because we had some incidences that essentially had us working over the weekend. And, I would often send him text messages over the weekend, and it would, and it was just an update on, like, okay, here's where, we stand with this. And it wasn't like anything's required of you, but just so you know, if you get a call from anybody, you've got the latest information. And sometimes the latest information was, I don't have anything new from our last update, but I'm constantly checking in, and you will be the first to know.
Yes, you did. And I've seen on LinkedIn and on little shorts and videos, and they remind you that your job is always not going to remember you, but your kids will. So, your kids are forever, right? Your job is not forever. Very rarely does anybody last their whole entire lifetime in a job. And while I'm not saying don't do the right thing by your employer. You always should. But how far are you willing to go to a point where your kids might suffer? And I'm a big Jack Ryan fan. I was watching Jack Ryan today with again on Amazon, and I was like, was it Amazon? I think it was. And I think it's Wyndon Pierce. He plays one of the CIA guys.
Wendell.
And Wendell. Yeah, thank you. And he was going to a football game with his kid, but he got called by the president and he left. And he's like, he goes, yeah, I got to remember to take care of my kid. So we have to remember, the kids are always going to remember the bad experiences and the good experiences. And I even saw another customer of mine today post from Disney World that he goes, sometimes you got to make sure you keep the memories. So those are the things the kids are going to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And, back to Joe's point about balance, right? So, I can't imagine the president needing my services for anything. However, if that happened, I would hope that I've also taught my child the importance of, a leader like that, needing something from you, and then going back to Abigail, part of, the strength of our relationship was, I very distinctly remember a time where we had rented out a, one of the, premium suites at a pro football game. And, my husband had to have an emergency business trip. And so there I was, and the game was on Sunday, and we had nobody available to help us take care of our kid. And so I remember calling Abigail saying, hey, I'm really sorry. I can't go because Brian had an emergency trip he had to fly out for. And so now there's nobody available to help take care of our son. And she was like, bring him. And I'm cool. Like, oh, but we're going to be with, our customers. I don't want to, you don't want to make this messy and whatever. And she's like, she knew Daniel, and she knew that he's, a very, well-behaved, respectful child and whatnot. She's like, He'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like, you're not missing out on this. Come. And, and it was wonderful. And he did great there, and it all worked out, so again, when you find those good leaders, man, you hold on tight, because
Probably the start of the show, your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't walk away if it wasn't important. And he knows that, if it wasn't absolutely necessary, I would, I would decline it. And he knows how I view that. And, he would recognize that it's not that he's not important or what he was doing isn't important. It's that, but he saw the trade-offs. He saw, many times that, there are certain things that you really, have to adhere to, where your work responsibilities are, even when it's, not, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then there are other things that, you can't pull back on. When we would always do a week-long trip. We'd go to Colorado. We would do this family camp thing, and there wasn't cell service and there wasn't Wi-Fi. So we were really present for a whole week in the summer, in the beautiful mountains. And, so not that 1 week in the mountains is going to make up for everything, but there are moments to do the quality things.
Well, if your family can survive a week in the mountains with no cell coverage outside of not having any work calls, that's pretty impressive on its own.
I'm not saying it was easy. There were a few times that, I'd have to drive down into there was one little town that you could drive into, and there would be like a couple of coffee shops that would have Wi-Fi. And, so I'd go in every now and again and check in just to make sure that nothing had blown up. But yeah, that's where you need, like, again, the incredible leadership support, and hopefully you have a good team and a good relationship with your peers, so that, everybody just picks up, the extra work during those times.
And a subscription to Starlink.
The what?
A subscription to Starlink. Starlink is that internet in the middle of anywhere.
That satellite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Now you tell me I could have used that information. No, actually, I didn't need it years ago because I needed to be present. But yes.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little too tempting when you're like, yeah, I can get coverage. You're like,
I could do it. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to check out every now and again. It's good to go off the grid. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So where do you see, when it comes to security or IT in general, women's participation going? Do you see it going up? Because, it's interesting, and it's a little deceptive. Like you say, there are some, but not many in leadership positions, but there are some who are very notable and very visible in leadership positions. But that doesn't mean we're in a strong position.
Yeah. I would say that there's definitely a crop coming. Now, whether that takes, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. But I definitely see that so many more parents are starting to steer their daughters in a STEM direction. And I think that's great. I think it's right around 5th grade, or most of the stats show that girls sort of stop chasing after sort of the more challenging subjects. They pick a lane, and it tends to not be, math and science and technology stuff. And there's just been a huge pull to steer women, to steer young girls in that direction. And that's actually one of the things that we hope to accomplish with Fierce. We actually have you and I talked a little bit about marketing earlier, and in my mind, I think we'll call that focus Thundercats, and that will those young girls will be the girls that we're going to really help steer in that STEM field, so that they're not afraid of it. It becomes something, just like if you're playing soccer, you're going to be aggressive. You're going to go after the ball. You're going to shoot the ball. You're going to, all the things. You're going to communicate, be a team player, and we're just going to keep pushing it like it's this most natural thing. And that's one of the things we hope to grow into with Fierce. And then, simultaneously, the other branding thing that we've been pushing, and I think we'll have it ready for our Fierce 100 workshop, is we also want to have a group of women that we call sirens, and our sirens are going to be some more seasoned women. And again, in any field, we know a lot of seasoned women, in the healthcare industry and technology in general. And they're going to help us out with the things that they've learned over the years as well. So we're going to kind of bookend it with, you've got women where they are today, and we've got the women that are to come, and we've got the women who've already walked through some of the fire for us. So,
Well, I like that sirens branding because you definitely won't get a copyright strike for that. I don't know about the other ones, but let me ask you something. So I'll ask you for some advice here.
okay.
I have a daughter.
Yep. How
In
old?
a week, she is 14. In a week or two, she starts high school.
Okay.
Right. So, and she goes to a good school, and she's at the point where we were actually talking today. I said, well, you're not quite ready to start thinking about college yet, but you got to start thinking about what you're interested in, what schools in the next year or two. I'm like, start giving it some thought. And, she's not tremendously interested in, science and math, but and engineer. But when it comes to that, she's actually pretty good at it. She's as good at it as anything else. And, on the one hand, I don't want to forcibly steer her into something that she's maybe not so interested in. But on the other hand, I worry it's like, but is it that she's not interested in it because of these, unconscious gender roles, or she, we don't do anything to promote it, but she's just in everything. And she say, this is not stuff that girls do. This is not what her friends are doing and everything. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that without, turning her into a mess or anything,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I don't have a daughter. I only have the one son. And, I noticed early on that he had an aptitude, for something that, sort of might look like engineering. And so and again, he was much younger when I started this process.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to put challenges in front of him that sort of fed that. So for instance, I gave him just a little spiral notebook and a set of coloring pencils. And and he loved water parks. And I would say, okay, you're an engineer and you get to create the newest ride at the water park. What does that look like? And so he would spend time just, drafting out what he thought would be a cool ride and all the details about it. Right. And you sort of just walk him through it, and he shows you the work and you go, oh, this is really interesting. But what about, do you have to worry about these sort of things? How do you get around these challenges with it? And you just kind of make him keep going back to the drawing table and perfecting and perfecting and perfecting. And then
by the way, you're smarter than me. You bought him a set of pencils. My kid bought the water park video game. I think it cost me $50. But anyway,
well, this was a while back. This was kind of before technology is the way it is. It's so easy today. Like now he has all of the. He would do it on it with his Apple Pencil.
All that.
Right?
Okay.
You're complaining. I took my kid to the water park. It cost me $200.
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely got off a lot cheaper than you guys, but and so then we would find like coding camps, and then we would find like the Lego robotics, and we just kind of kept introducing him, immersing him in certain things that sort of fed into that. So then it was a very natural thing, and so and today his degree will be in industrial engineering with a business minor. And so it worked out for us that I could see early on that he had the aptitude. So we just kind of kept feeding into it. We would introduce him. We introduced him to architects because there was about a 2-year period where he thought maybe he would do architecture versus engineering. And then he decided, he's like, there's not enough math in that. I want to do something that's a little more intensive with math. So we were like, all right, scratch that. You still have time. That was still while he was in high school. So we were like, you still have plenty of time. We can go this other direction. So then we started introducing him to our friends who were engineers. And in lots of different, there's engineering is, so broad. There's so many different types. So we started, introducing him to different types of engineering people and school of thought. So he got exposed to a lot before he went off to college. And then, so he just sort of, when you get to A&M, you just, I think you declare engineering, and then it's like 2 years into it is when you go more specific into it, which specific study of engineering you want. And that's when he selected industrial. So you can do things like that. So again, you can notice, I know about somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, a lot of companies started creating sort of STEM themed toys for girls, right? So yes, they were made in pink and things of that nature, which I'm going to let it go because I appreciate the fact that it was being done. But
I thought, but let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Here's a trivia question. Who's
Okay.
the largest employer of women? I'm hoping it's still in STEM.
In STEM, largest employer of women in
And
STEM. Gosh.
supposedly it was at least 33%.
Hmm. I don't know.
I don't know.
NASA.
Oh, I love it.
NASA, really?
Love it. Love it.
Google
Okay.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, yeah, and again, I was in I think 10th grade. Was that it was at 85 was when like they took a teacher up, a female teacher up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was the Challenger, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
know.
not.
Yeah, it didn't
I
work out
remember
so
that.
good,
It didn't
but
work out great, but it
the
still it
thought
was
was there. Yeah.
representation matters. There were a lot of girls who saw that and were like, I could do that too, and representation matters. You have to see it to believe that it could be an option for you as well. That's why it's just so. That's why we love the name Fierce. It's like it changes everything when you have female representation.
I see a lot of women wearing, I'm not sure if it's a fashionable thing or they really like
Mm.
it, NASA t-shirts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Joe touched on it. Branding, marketing, it's incredible. It's incredible what branding and marketing can do, and social media can be used for so much more good than just wasting your time. So that's another thing. Like can you expose your daughters to certain books, to sort of like Abigail's dad did. When there is a woman leader who has a great TED talk or something, sit down and watch that TED talk with your daughter, and then have that conversation afterwards about what did you think about this? Did you like what she had to say? How would you have done this differently? What topics are top of mind for you? And and again, this dovetails into my it's not quantity, it's quality, and that's how you really get to know who your kids are, so that you can steer them.
Okay, so quality. So my daughter has a T-shirt personally signed by an astronaut.
I
So am I
love it.
covered? Am
How'd
I
you
am
get
I guilt
that?
I
free
mean,
at this point?
but you know what? You know what else?
Might have to do a little more.
You can plant a seed. NASA does an incredible internship program for kids, and
But like for high school kids or
no,
college?
I
I
think it's
guess more
college
college.
kids,
Okay.
but maybe they might do camps I bet you they do camps. I have a
Space
friend.
camp.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a guy your way, and have him be one of your guests. And he can tell you all about the different things, because he leads up their internship program, and
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
yeah, love that guy, love him. So I'm
Wow.
gonna send him your way. Um, but do you see how we're having this conversation? So I'm planting seeds with you, and then you're
Mhm.
going to do some more things, and you're going like now use it again. Use social media for the betterment. So post this kind of stuff, like challenge your male friends to like, hey, I want to see you support young girls, women, whatever it looks like, publicly, and because we need the male allies. Like you guys are key to unlocking this. So men have to recognize that it needs to be done, and then you have to be willing participants, and you really got to be our cheerleaders. You got to be our champions, and you got to help us out.
Wow, Rebecca, you're like a leader or something. You've actually got me excited about this. And you're going to get
You
us
can do
another
it.
guest. You're the best.
You can do
Wow.
it. I promise. I promise. Yeah. Now,
Oh,
I mean,
awesome.
this is what community is about, right? That's you have a podcast because you want to build a community. This is what community is about.
All right. Wow.
So, my personal
Okay.
opinion.
So maybe we need to start gearing some of our swag for our show towards women.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't mean you make it
Okay.
pink. That does not
No,
I
mean
no,
you
was
I
going
make
to
use
it
say,
pink.
pink.
should we order some pink flasks?
No, no,
Will
no,
that
no.
do it?
No, that's only insulting people.
Next show, Cosmopolitan will be the drink.
I drink that.
You know what I didn't think about? I should have created my own little fierce teeny drink for today's show. That
Well,
would
you
have been
know what?
incredible. I wasn't
You
100% there with the branding for today, but that's okay.
you have been great, and we would love to have you on again and
Anytime.
try out whatever a fierce teeny ends up being.
Fierstini.
It's probably going to have tequila of some sort, because you got to know
Oh, I
that's my
see.
drink. I'm a tequila girl. Man, it's good.
That I know.
Today's sipping tequila. Like the junk you drank in college. No, That's not my game. I like a nice little sipping tequila.
Well, I'll tell you, when they rang up that bottle of Casamigos, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Yeah, this ain't the stuff I had in college." I can tell you that much. So
No,
I can see
no,
why
no,
George is
no.
doing okay. So
Weren't you drinking Night Train? $2 a bottle.
I might have had a night train once or twice in my college
I
career.
mean,
I can
yeah,
neither
yeah,
confirm nor deny,
yeah,
but we moved
yeah.
on from that. But
What I love about our generation and anything that may or may not have happened is that there's no proof. There's no
that's right.
video.
We don't have
There's no
this
video.
record
There's no
of this
pictures. Yeah,
Instagram. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're good. We're good. We're good. This next generation, not so much.
Oh no, it's going to be wow, awesome. Okay,
All
and that
right.
gets into our surveillance episode, but that's a whole other subject.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So, Adam, I think we're at last call. Your final. Adam always gets our final thoughts here.
All right.
My final thought is we need to get a sponsor. Go down to the workshop over in Texas. We need to learn a thing or two, and we should be okay.
Well, that sounds really good. Except, I don't want to. I don't want to crash the women's conference like with a big bottle of tequila and say, "Hey, we're allies." Girls, we hang out with you. I don't know if that's going to work.
We're gonna gain. And at the last conference that Rebecca had, they had guys.
We did. We did. We did. We typically do. I will say that unless you're an actual sponsor, we're going to keep this one to women. Of course, any of our sponsors that are males are welcome to join us. I know, but just this one. All of the
Fair.
others, we more than welcome. We absolutely need our male allies. Like I said, this is the only way this is successful is, and the most important piece, and I love it for both of you that you have daughters and you can see that I want life to be different for my daughter when she hits this phase of her life where she's evaluating, what companies, what roles, even for you, Joe, like what should she study? How do I navigate that? Like, we really need you in the game with us here. You're
I
super
get.
important.
I guess the alternative is if we can't go to your conference and you have to come to New York and hang out and we'll
I
buy
can do that.
tequila.
I can easily do that. Love to do that.
Yeah, when we're in New
Yeah.
York, we'll hang out and get
Love
tequila,
it.
whatever else you
Love
like.
it. Look forward to it.
And notice I said New York,
Thank you.
Joe, not going to New Jersey. You coming to New York.
Oh, I come into New York. I can't hang out in New Jersey. Please, I need to maintain an unsullied criminal record in my home state, so I'll go to New York.
I'm just going to tell you this, Rebecca. He lives near a
Yeah.
mall where people valet park their six-figure cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
everyone have that?
No,
I mean, I'm not a 6-figure car girl. I could care less about cars.
I didn't say he
not
had
me.
a six-figure car. I said
Yeah.
he lives near a mall where
They have
they valet
Yes.
park
Yeah.
the six-figure
I mean,
cars.
Yes,
some
I park in the
people,
deck like a peasant, not in the valet parking. So, yeah.
I mean, again, we talked about priorities. We talked about like, what does success look like for some people? It's very different. For me, it's like if I'm healthy, my family's healthy. We have all the wealth and success that we need in life. But it's different for absolutely everybody.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right.
on that note, Rebecca, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Your
Thank
time.
you.
It's been a fun
Cheers,
discussion.
guys.
Adam,
Yeah.
take it easy.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Bye.
Right.